Barely 24 hours after delivering one of the most emotional and universally acclaimed surprise performances in recent K-pop history, Jin of BTS suddenly disappeared. Not metaphorically, not artistically, but literally. As fans awaited his return for an encore appearance at Coldplay's second Seoul show, which many assumed would feature a reprise of The Astronaut, or at least a closing group moment, Jin was nowhere to be seen.
No backstage sightings, no rehearsal leaks, no social media hints.
Nothing. The stadium felt colder. Whispers began long before the lights dimmed. Attendees with VIP access posted confused updates. No sighting of Jin today. Different dressing room assignments. Even staff look unsure. Many dismissed it as intentional misdirection. After all, Jin's previous appearance was pulled off under complete secrecy. Surely this was just another setup. Surely Coldplay and Jin wouldn't give fans such a transcendent moment only to let it evaporate like smoke. But as the night unfolded, and as the final encore began without a single mention of BTS, the energy shifted. The fans weren't disappointed, they were worried. Why wasn't he there? Why give the world a reunion only to take it back in silence? And then came the silence from HYB. Again. Coldplay remained equally tight-lipped. Social media turned into a battlefield of speculation, grief, and desperate hope. Some armies theorized that Jin had fulfilled his promised appearance and immediately returned to his military base. Others believed something had gone wrong backstage. Still others feared that perhaps his one-night performance had stirred internal controversy with the military authorities, had it violated some unspoken line. At 3:17 a.m. Korea Standard Time, a message appeared on the BTS fan platform Weverse from Jin himself. It was short, almost painfully so. "I'm okay. I had to go back early. I couldn't say goodbye, but you know it's never the end. Thank you for holding me last night." And that was it. No video. No picture. Just a text and a timestamp that would be screenshotted millions of times over in the next 48 hours. The message only deepened the mystery. What had happened that forced him to leave so abruptly? Fans began dissecting every frame from the previous night's performance. Did he look tense? Was he hiding something? Why did Chris Martin seem to hold him longer than necessary during the hug at the end? Then came the most viral moment, a 5-second backstage clip, leaked by a crew member and quickly removed, showing Jin sitting alone just minutes after his performance. His shoulders were slumped. His hands clutched the edge of a metal chair. Coldplay's manager approached him, whispering something. Jin nodded, then stood, then disappeared through a back curtain, never to return. The hashtag where is Jin exploded on Twitter. More confusing still, South Korean military sources refused to comment on whether Jin had used official leave for his Coldplay appearance. When pressed, one spokesperson said only, "Military leave records are confidential and approved under various cultural protocols." Rumors soon flared that Jin had returned to base immediately after the show, escorted by an unmarked black vehicle. This theory was seemingly confirmed by grainy footage captured by a fan who had followed one of the suspected vehicles out of the venue, showing a man with Jin's build entering a restricted military gate at dawn. But the emotional damage had already spread. Fans were divided, not in loyalty, but in pain. Many thanked him for even appearing for one night, calling it a gift we didn't deserve. Others cried at the sense of sudden abandonment. "It feels like we finally saw the sun, only for it to set before we were ready," one fan tweeted. Coldplay, ever diplomatic, released a short statement 2 days later. "We are honored to have shared the stage with our brother Jin. His voice will echo long after the show. We respect and support his duties." Still, that didn't explain the disappearing act. And then, in a twist no one predicted, a Korean news outlet published an op-ed claiming that Jin's performance was never officially authorized in full. According to the anonymous insider quoted in the piece, the appearance was permitted under strict conditions. It was not intended to span multiple nights. His immediate return was not punishment, it was protocol. If true, it meant Jin had been allowed to borrow one night from the military calendar not as an indulgence, but as a precise arrangement. There would be no encore, no curtain call, no lingering. He had known all along, and he did it anyway. He gave everything to that performance, knowing he'd disappear again before the applause had even faded. This revelation only made the experience more haunting. Fans began revisiting the performance with new eyes. The way Jin paused after the final note, the deep inhale before his last bow, the whisper to Chris Martin, the line in his thank you note, "Let me sing this, not because I have to, but because I need to." It wasn't just a concert. It was a farewell dressed as a hello. Psychologists weighed in on the global phenomenon of collective emotional disorientation. News outlets called it the Jin effect, how one appearance from a beloved figure can simultaneously heal and wound. How closure isn't always something you're given. Sometimes it's something you must create on your own, and fans did just that. Within days, murals of Jin appeared in Hongdae. Candlelight vigils were held by armies in Tokyo, Berlin, and Sao Paulo. A fan art project titled One Night Astronaut received over 70,000 submissions. Streaming numbers for The Astronaut broke records again, not for a new release, but for a memory that refused to fade. It wasn't long before global media picked up on what had truly happened. Jin had crafted his own myth. A myth of return and then retreat. Not as a stunt, but as a statement. He reminded the world that even silence can sing. That even one night can define an era. That sometimes a goodbye cloaked in a smile is the most sincere kind of love. And then he was gone. And interviews.
No selfies.
No behind-the-scenes vlogs. Just the echo of a voice that promised he was okay. But was he? That's the question still lingering across timelines and YouTube thumbnails. Not just where is Jin, but how is he? What did that performance cost him? Emotionally,
Personally.
spiritually, that we may never get the full answer. And maybe that's the point. Maybe he wanted to leave not as a headline, but as a heartbeat. A beat that continues to pulse in the silence of the encore that never came. And for millions around the world, that single unfinished moment has become more meaningful than any full-length show could ever be. And yet, Jin's voice, just one night, just one song, refused to stop echoing through ARMY's collective memory. But what truly happened behind the curtain, after the stadium lights dimmed and the audience was still begging for more, became a global obsession. Videos dissected frame-by-frame moments from Jin's entrance and exit. TikTok theories took off like wildfire. Was he crying off stage? Did Chris Martin try to convince him to stay? What did that last backstage whisper really mean? One clip showed Jin being lightly held back by a staff member just after exiting the stage, his head bowed, a visible stiffness in his shoulders, and an almost inaudible "Can I?" before the audio cut. Fans with sound-boosting software tried everything to reconstruct the missing words. Was he asking to say goodbye one more time? Was he stopped from stepping back out? The theory that spiraled fastest was that Jin's exit wasn't just pre-planned, it was enforced. Some armies pointed to the exact military codes that restrict unscheduled overnight appearances by enlisted personnel. Others cited loopholes used in similar cases for actors and government-affiliated cultural events. But what made Jin's case more complicated was that this wasn't a government-sponsored moment. This was personal, artistic, intimate, that made it feel even more fragile. Coldplay, pressured by international media to speak up, offered only one cryptic update. He gave us everything. He left when he had to. We'll wait for him again. That sentence became a rallying cry across ARMY. We'll wait for him again. Not as a demand, but as a promise. As the initial euphoria turned into aching absence, a strange sort of grief gripped the fandom. Fan psychologists and K-pop commentators called it a form of phantom connection rupture, the experience of emotional intimacy created by a beloved figure, only for that closeness to be abruptly taken away, leaving a vacuum. It wasn't just that Jin had left. It was how he left, without a word, without a bow, without a chance for fans to say, "Stay." In Seoul, stories emerged of fans leaving letters taped to the back wall of Jamsil Olympic Stadium. Hundreds of them.